1, 2, 3, 4. Chop, chop, chop.
It's cure of the what now?
Gather the ingredients.
Cure of the what now?
Not much time to prep before it's time to start the show.
Oh!
Guests are arriving.
Cure of the what now?
Everybody's smiling.
Cure of the what now?
A tasty party starting. Now it's time to go. Woo!
Ooh. Served hot and fresh.
Itadakimasu. Hello, fellow transforming fairies.
Boo!
No, stop it.
Continue with the
I'm
intro.
scared. It's a spooky episode of Cure the What Now?
Season 2, episode 34. Yum.
I messed that up. Should we do it again?
No, it's fine.
I was just too scared. I was
The ghosts
too
are
spooked.
telling me, no, you did a good job. Here is a treat. It's a cookie that definitely won't eat your face.
It's a cookie that's definitely not a chinchilla. My name is Kat, and I wanted to be the devil for Halloween, but then I realized everyone would know that was actually a reflection of who I am inside. So instead, I dressed up as Jesus. Please think I'm a good person. Please.
Wonderful. I'm your co-host, Joel, and also, I'm going to bully the shit out of some people in order to get them to shape up and be better students. I will smack the fear of not being nice to each other into their heads.
God, Aguri is incredible. We didn't say the one show where we know. What is this the one show where we know it's going to be a spooky, happy Halloween?
The one show where we know you can't wear costumes that reflect your inner Catholic guilt.
Absolutely.
But we also know it's the one show where we know it's the spookiest time of the year. And James of The Weekly Planet is not just talking about tax time in Australia. Tax season in Australia.
I forgot James of the Weekly Planet was not James, that one welder guy. And I was like, did he make that joke in our Discord? And then I was like, no, you fool. You don't have any cool Australians in your Discord. This episode is weird because we were traveling last week. So this week we are covering 2 episodes of Delicious Party and 4 episodes, I think,
Doki Doki,
of Doki Doki. And then tomorrow we're going to record 2 episodes of Doki Doki, 1 episode of Delicious Party. So it's a lot. Bear with us. Joel, do we want to do a discussion or do we want to just roll right into it since we've got so much meat to chew on?
I think that with the release of a particular show that we've now watched the first couple of episodes of, it's the perfect time to ask ourselves, which of the Delicious Party girls do you think would be most frazzled by being put inside of a dating sim? Also, oh no, that answer is too obvious. I was going to say, which is the Martian bumble kid, like the country bumpkin who enrolls in school and gets married to one of the other, like a high lady, but that's obviously Kokone and Amane.
Obviously, yeah. Although Kokone and Amane are both kind of fancy ladies, aren't they?
Yeah, but like I could see Amane being the princess that everyone wants to marry in Gundam, a show that has never been political and never had lesbians ever.
Have you seen
They're really
Gundam?
shaking the formula this year.
You know what's great? You know what's great about having never seen any Gundam? I get to just wow, cool robot it, you know? Like I know Gundam historically is about stuff.
Yeah.
But that's fine. Like, it can be about stuff, and I can enjoy the cool robots.
Now, I've only seen a total of 2 seasons. I've seen G Gundam, which is, like, known to be camp and, like, not as silly, and it takes place in an alternate timeline. And I saw Iron-Blooded Orphans. And I would say that neither of them is capable of subtlety. And I would say that as far as I understood the messages, it was just war is bad, which, you know, we can all agree war is bad, but, like, it didn't go much deeper than that.
Have you considered that you are much older than probably the target demographic for Gundam, so it's easier for you to see it? I think a lot of people who missed that it was like an anti-war show probably watched it when they were children.
Oh, maybe.
And then they watched it as adults and they were like, who put these politics in my giant robot
Yeah, who
show?
made the mechs woke all of a sudden? I don't understand. You can't tell jokes anymore when you're inside of the Gundam. I will also say, I will admit that because Iron-Blooded Orphans was so hyped up to me by a couple of people in a different Discord server that when I started watching it and it wasn't amazing, it was just a show, I think that contributes to me not paying much attention to the themes. So there probably was deeper themes other than war is bad, but like, I didn't care.
Joel doesn't always get it.
Yeah, I don't.
If it's a serious show and there are no cute girls, chances are pretty high he's not going to pay attention. But we all have our things, you know? We're getting off track. We're going to do a discussion question. I'm torn on this one because on one hand, Yui doesn't get romance at all. But I don't think she'd be upset that she was thrust into a dating sim. I think she'd just be confused.
I don't think she even knows what dating is. Exactly.
But Ran, if you took away Ran's ramens and her siblings and all of the weird toys she invents and we're like, you gotta kiss a boy before you get any of that back, she would lose it. She would freak out. She'd have such good faces.
Also, you and I have long speculated that Ran X Amane's two hot older brothers has long since been like a thing that the show's been setting up. So imagine them showing up and becoming the Ikumen, I guess is the term. I am aware of dating games. I'm aware of like otome games, but I don't know like the Japanese word. So if you go onto Netflix, I believe it's out on Netflix in the US and Japan, but it might be available on other streaming platforms in other countries. I don't know. But if you watch Romantic Killer, there are a lot of references in that first episode to, oh my gosh, is this the Gonbudan scene? And like, I recognize it's the girl falling on top of the guy, which is in a lot of rom-coms, but I didn't know there was a specific name for that.
Absolutely. I'm probably going to butcher these words, so AU, don't come for me. I know you know where I live, and it's fine. Just leave me alone. I know that words are hard, okay? But it's Ikemen, and it's derived from Ikeru, which means cool or good or exciting, and Menzu. Which is men.
Okay, I thought Ikeru was the Japanese figure that flew too close to the sun.
No.
Oh, no?
No.
Someone else?
You're thinking of Ice Ice Baby.
Oh, yeah, of course. I
couldn't think of another word close to Icarus.
Yeah, Icarus is kind of a unique sounding word in the English language, at least. We don't have a lot of words that rhyme with it.
Absolutely. Hey, on Google, when you look up Ikemen, one of the first image results you get is Ikemen Vampire, Temptation in the Dark, and it's just a lot of hot vampire boys.
That sounds Halloween themed.
Yeah. You remember that one time I tried to watch an anime that I thought was going to be a cute, nice reverse harem vampire, and then it was bad? It was just awful. First episode, terrifying. Yeah,
I think streaming services are like, check it out. Check out our many different shows, but a lot of the times they're not great, you know? So anyways, I think that's been our discussion question. The one person, we didn't touch on Kokone and Amane. I think Kokone, like Yui, would be slightly confused, but I think Kokone would be confused insofar as, like, she seems to mostly read books and be into fashion, so, like, I don't think she's, like, ace or anything like that. Like, I don't think she's uninterested in boys or disinterested or girls or whatever the case may be, but I just don't think she would understand the tropes and stuff, and she'd be like, what is going on? And Amane, I'm gonna headcanon that she, like, knows some video games. Like, I think that maybe her brothers have probably played some. They probably haven't played otome games, but she probably gets enough that, like, if somehow a little wizard was like, I'm gonna turn your life into a video game, I think that she would kind of get it. So I think you're right that Ran would be the one who created the most hilarious situations, which fits with the theme of Romantic Killer.
Absolutely. Hit me with those sweet, sweet, succinct summaries, and I give you permission to be as rapid fire as you want, given the number of episodes.
Wow, okay, thank you. Permission taken? Permission accepted. It's an opt-in system. I have to also accept that you're giving me. This week, we watched Delicious Party episodes 32 and 33. We watched episodes 29 through 32 of Doki Doki, and we watched 2 episodes of Glitter Force. That was 22 and 23. Next week, we'll be watching 34 of Delicious Party and 33 and 34 of Doki Doki. Side note, you know, there were like something like 19 episodes, I think, that were cut out of Doki Doki for the Glitter Force dub, and apparently this is where a lot of them come from. There's a guide on the fandom that someone wrote up about which episodes were cut, and there's just like 6 in a row that were cut from the Glitter Force. So for the next 2 or 3 podcast episodes, we're just gonna have no Glitter Force to talk about. And then we get 1 episode, and then there's like another 3 that get skipped.
Oh no, the Great Glitter Force drought.
What will we do without Jimmy Neutron shouting about how great, friendship is?
You wrote Glitter Force None in the scratch pad. Now I can just think Glitter Force None left beef. None Glitter Force left PreCure.
Okay, absolutely.
Discussion question. Left PreCure most likely to be a left.
Left no. Glitter Force, none Doki Doki.
Okay, there you go.
All right. So in episode 32 of Delicious Party, a noodle recipe goes missing, which makes the other recipes cry, which makes all noodles soggy, and so they have to try to find the recipe while Ran is trying to help her family at a noodle festival, and also you get a cameo of a real-life mascot, and then also Mem Mem has apparently noodle psychic powers. That was episode 32. Episode 33, Amane is feeling bad that she thinks that bad guys deserve to be punched, but she doesn't tell anyone about it, and it causes her and the parfait recipe, who should have a name, to break up briefly, but then they get back together. Also, it's a Halloween episode.
What about Parfipi?
Okay, Parfipi and Amane get back together, they reconcile their differences, and then they all have a happy time at the end of the episode. Doki Doki. Episode 29, Charles and the other fairies decide that they want to be able to take human forms like Dobby. Charles is the best suited to it. She seems to be the one who most enjoys it. She's very much so a parallel to Kome Kome from Delicious Party in that way. But she overexerts herself, and it almost turns out that she's that she prevents Mana from being able to transform, almost called her Yui. And then they realize that they have to work together, and then they save the day. Hooray. At the end of that episode, Aguri says, "You're ready for the final test." And everyone goes, "What test?" And she goes, "I'll tell you next episode." Next episode, it's Bloodborne time, baby! Not Bloodborne time, baby. It's, they're gonna fight a dragon. Dragon, rock the dragon, Dragon Ball Z. Come get me. So, they have to fight this dragon. The dragon kicks their ass. And then they realize the power of friendship, and they kick the dragon's ass. And then they get a mystical mirror that is going to help them achieve new powers. Except it doesn't seem to work. In episode 31, Leva and Gula
get married.
They are egged on by Belle. Belle's basically like, you talk this big game about defeating the glitter force, the PreCure, and you haven't yet. So what are you going to do, you chumps, you losers, you freaks? And the other two are like, we're not going to lose to you, Belle. We're going to unveil our ultimate technique, which is all according to Belle's Keikaku. They fuse together to become a disdain. I kind of wish that they got like a fun, like, Guleva, I think is what I proposed several weeks ago when I didn't realize they were actually going to do this. They transform, they beat up the girls. There's a really cool scene with Mana that we're probably going to try to touch on, but we might forget because we do that a lot. And then the mirror force, whatever, that got broken into 5 pieces, transforms into new transformation items, and they get a new final attack that...
Not transformation items. New attack.
New love charms that give them a new final attack that defeats the combined disdain and saves the town. When they go back to base, they are now in a weakened state, which is all according to Belle's plan from earlier.
Plan means keikaku.
And he eats them. He transforms them into a lollipop. We see their bodies disintegrate, which is horrifying. We get a scene of Leva in like this like ghoulish, like half-absorbed form. And then Belle just eats them and becomes more powerful.
He slurps up all their ego-G like a spaghetti. Now, may I do part of 32's succinct summary?
Sure.
You remember how I was like, who is this unsupervised child when Aguri showed up?
Yes.
This episode is that. Everybody would like to know who this unsupervised child is. Why is she telling us what to do? Where are her parents?
Absolutely. 32 is an episode where Mana gets sick from overexerting herself, and the girls have to, like, staple her to the bed. They have to, like, tie her down, otherwise she'll just keep getting up and being helpful.
She wants to run the cultural festival.
Yeah, this is the cultural festival episode. Aguri tries to, like, take up Mana's steed, and at first it seems like she's being too harsh, but by the end of the episode it turns out that she was right to act the way that she did, which, okay, fine, whatever. And then...
But Mana was also right. We'll talk about it.
Yes. But the culture festival is threatened, and Aguri/Ace is able to, like, hold down the fort because of the lesson that she learned from Mana, and then also the school learns about the Doki Doki, the PreCure. I keep wanting to call them Glitter Force, which they are technically, but also they aren't. But the school kind of learns about them. They don't say we're the PreCure, but Heart says, I'm Heart, and we're here to save the day. And then at the end of the episode, the students are like, who was that? But it's an Aguri Mana episode, and it was super adorable. Also, Belle has transformed Gula and Leva into blood rings, so that Bloodborne reference earlier was correct, which make Marmo and Ira stronger, but also he can use to, like, electrocute them, so basically Bell is now the number 2 of the Disdain army. And those have been your Succinct Summaries!
Succinct Summaries! I'm sorry, I know you saw me make a face. I can't put aside whatever my current interest is, and I was just reading ABAI's policy on contingent electric shock, and so when you said
what do any of those words mean?
It doesn't matter. I'm not going to get into it, but when you said the thing about the blood rings doing shock, I wanted to make a joke about contingent electric skin shock, and then I went, nobody cares.
I think some people would care, but okay, yeah, absolutely. If you don't want to go into it, you don't have to go into it.
Absolutely.
This section will contain spoilers for Star Twinkle PreCure. Please use the timestamps in the description below to skip if you do not want spoilers for literally the finale of Star Twinkle.
So, moving aside from that weird tangent, before we actually discuss the episodes, I see here on our scratch pad that in very large, bold red letters, it says, "Talk about Star Twinkle for a second."
Yes.
Second was the only one not capitalized.
So, we have mentioned before that we do watch-togethers, and what we were doing for a time was we were watching the week's Doki Doki episodes that we're going to cover on the podcast, and then we were watching a couple of Star Twinkle episodes. I have seen all of Star Twinkle, Catherine has not, and James from the Discord also had not seen Star Twinkle, and we finally got to the final episode. I wanted to talk about it in the last episode of the podcast, but we forgot. That's why it's in red letters, so we won't forget. Catherine, overall, how are you feeling about the Star Twinkle series?
Man, that's an emotional ending.
It really is.
Like, I can't believe they just killed Fua.
Yep, absolutely.
But yeah, like, it was just very intense, and I felt like, you know, the whole point of this series is that you can imagine the future that you want to see, but once somebody dies, you can't imagine them being undead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they handled it really well. I would say that of all of the various endings, this one and Witchy get the 2 saddest endings for me.
Absolutely. Witchy, yeah. At least she gets her reunion at the very last second.
So does Star Twinkle.
No. Star Twinkle ends with her having a dream that she sees Fua again and then flying off into space, but we don't actually see them see each other again. In Witchy, we see the girls, like, talk and reconnect.
Okay, yeah, no, in Star Twinkle, we hear Fua opening a portal, and we see Hikaru looking out the window, so, like, they have their happy moment, it's just not on screen.
Right, it's heavily implied, I guess is what I'm saying. That could have been a hallucination by lack of oxygen, because there was a leak in her ship seconds before explosion.
This is PreCure, not one of those, like, edgy, you know, the magical girls, every time they transform, they lose 7 years of their life or whatever.
Well, I'm sorry then for my edgy... You remember when edgy headcanons were all the rage of, like, shows from your childhood?
Yeah, absolutely. So, did you know that all of the babies were made up in Angelica's mind, for example?
Yep. No, one of the things that I think Star Twinkle did very well was, other than I won, I feel like it handled the redemption of the villains pretty well.
Yes.
Like, they all had good reasons to be where they were, and I feel like their interactions with the PreCure brought them to a point where they could let go of that anger. And that's what I like to see. I don't like redemptions out of nowhere, and I don't like their interactions with the PreCure being meaningless, ultimately. And that's kind of what I hope for Doki Doki. I hope Ira grows as a result of his relationship with Cure Diamond.
Yes, absolutely. I really like Star Twinkle. For a while, I thought I regarded it so highly because it was the first PreCure season that I watched. And I've heard that a lot of people have special opinions about the first PreCure they ever watched. They have special impressions about the first Doctor from Doctor Who that they ever watched. They have a favorite James Bond based off of the first one that they watched. But no, revisiting it, there are some really strong elements in here. The episode where Lala gets her sparkle imagination hits really hard. The episode where Madoka gets her sparkle imagination or twinkle imagination has like a Dragon Ball Z like warp attack moment, and like, holy crap, this show's really good. I really like it.
I love that they got Madoka's dad fired and then he was never seen again.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
But yeah, those were kind of my overall thoughts. I felt like it held up really well to your description in our 8-hour PreCure episode. Link in the description below. I can't remember if we made the whole thing or only part of it available, but...
Editing Joel will figure it out.
Excellent. Do you want to talk about Delicious Party or Doki?
Delicious Party, I think.
Let's go.
How did you like the episode with the soggy noodles?
That was incredible. Okay. That had big Tropical Rouge energy to me, insofar as nothing happened, and it wasn't really relevant to anything else that has happened previously. It was just like a fun diversion.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting that they expanded on, like, the lore of the recipipis, because, like, a lot of these PreCure shows, they're like, oh, that's the spirit of nature. Oh, that's the spirit of the weather or whatever. And then, like, they don't really do anything beyond that, really. And in this episode, we find out that the mood of the recipipis can affect the food that they're tied to. And we also found out that, like, all of the noodle recipipis, like, are part of a clique and they all know each other. Like, I like that.
They hang out when nobody's eating noodles.
Exactly. One thing that I didn't like is that the episode starts with a mystery. Why is the noodle recipe? I can't remember specifically which one it is, but why has that one gone missing? And Yui and Amane and Mem, like they all try to go and figure out this mystery, and it turns out it was just taking a nap, and, like, I don't understand that. Like, they couldn't find it on their, like, radar. They couldn't find it. Like, it was an interesting mystery with a bad payoff.
The simple answer is that Kumamon is a black hole, and you can see nothing about him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. Now, Kumamon, is that one of the Ultimate Muscle characters, or what's going on?
Interestingly enough, no. He is not here to body slam the human race. Kumamon is a mascot that you mentioned in your succinct summary from real life, who had a cameo in this episode.
Yeah, he premiered in, like, 2010, 2012. I looked this up when we watched the episode, and I forgot to write it down. But yeah, it's a real-life mascot, and they just kind of put it into this episode, and he becomes, like, kind of the star in a certain sense. And I think that's pretty neat. What did you think about the noodle sorcery?
Yeah. I want to know, does that mean Pam Pam has a unique magic ability? Because
related to bread?
Yeah. Kome can teleport them, and Mem can do noodle sorcery. So, can she levitate things? What do you think she can do?
I think that she can use a breadstick to temporarily knight someone and give them bread-styled armor. That is weak against soup, but strong against cheese, I guess? Like, I don't know. What would you use? What would you deploy bread against?
I mean, I would actually employ it against soup to soak up the soup.
Okay, absolutely. You soak up the soup and you lose the defensive abilities of the armor, but you also get rid of the soup. You know, just kind of like a...
Oh, man, now I want soup and bread. Can we get Olive Garden breadsticks later?
Sure.
Or cornbread? Yes.
Okay, focus. There's one other bit from this episode that I wrote down in, like, favorite scenes and quotes I want to touch on. While everyone is split up, Kokone has decided to try to cheer up the crying noodles. And Kokone, once again, has a little bit of, like, I don't want to say social ineptness, but just, like, she's green behind the ears when it comes to, like, certain things. And so she tries to play peekaboo with them, but her face is too scary. She makes them cry harder. And that's so relatable. Anytime I see a baby in line at, like, the store or whatever, I'm like, oh, you know what babies like? They like it when you make faces. And I'd say success rate 70% of the time I make a face and they're like, ah, ha, ha. Sometimes I make a face and they're just like, oh God, who's this scary
Their eyes just get bigger and they just stare at you. Well, and, like, I'm pretty good with children, right? I've worked with children for a long time. One of the most traumatic moments of my life, and I use that word lightly here, I'm not being serious, but I was at the mall and I'm walking and this mom walks toward me and her toddler jumps out in front of her in between us and goes, "Rawr." And so I look at him and I jump forward and I go, "Rawr." And he bursts into tears and just starts, like, sobbing.
Oh, man.
And I had to apologize to his mom, and his mom laughed and was like, "You're fine." But, like, don't dish out dinosaur sounds if you can't take dinosaur sounds.
Just call Kat the child terrifier. You know, that's her job. That's her name. No, that is strange that toddlers will, like, think, like, I can do this, and then they're like, oh no, I can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep. Toddlers are bizarre. Do you think they have noodle fortune-telling abilities and that's why they're so weird all the time?
No, because toddlers are weird all the time, not just when they're around noodles. So...
That's a good point. It's a good point. More research required.
I also liked, so at first, Mem's like, I have to use that technique, which if you've ever read shonen manga is always like, this technique will take 10 years off of your life. And so I was like, is Mem going to sacrifice himself? Like, what's going to happen? Is Ran not going to be able to transform for a little while?
We also have to talk about Ran's continually unique way of phrasing things.
Yeah.
Because, so the energy fairies energy is linked to the PreCure's energy in this season, which I really like. I think that's a cool limitation that they should have used before right now. But Ran is weaker because Mem is weakened because he did noodle fortune telling. And she is like, I'm not upset with you. You are the generous soup that embraces the noodle. If we got married again, I would say that to you in our wedding.
Generous soup. What an odd way of phrasing. And there have been times when the way that the different characters talk and I read the subtitles, I go, that's not how I, a native English speaker, would say that sentence. And so it might just be like something that got a little lost in transformation, but yeah, translation. The Japanese transforms into English and back and forth.
All right, AU, you can come for him, just not me.
Yeah, that was a weird way of putting it, but basically at the end of the day, slight spoilers for One Piece, but there's a scene in One Piece where there's a character who's not like the world's strongest fighter, but he's a sniper. He's really good at hitting things from far away. And then there's another character who's really good at kicking people, but he doesn't really have like any kind of long range capabilities, not to the same extent. And there's a scene where the kicky guy Sanji saves Usopp's life and he goes, don't worry about it. I understand that you can take on this opponent. There are things that I can do. I'm going to kick the shit out of this guy. And there's things that you can do, so go help our friend. And this episode with Ran and Mem was just that. It was, there are things that Ran does and contributes to Mem, and there's things that Mem does that contribute to Ran. And together, even though the noodles were a little floppity, not quite fully cooked, they were able to still beat the bad guy through the power of teamwork.
Which is funny, because I feel like that was the message of one of the Doki Doki episodes, too.
Yes, we can talk about that when we get to it.
Sure.
The one thing that I will mention, and this is actually a bit of subtle storytelling, which I like, but because PreCure is usually so on the nose, it surprised me. At the beginning of the episode, they all go to Ran's noodle hut, the store that her parents run, and Amane hesitates before going in, and I've seen a lot of people point out that that's probably because as Gentlu, she attacked this place, and so she probably feels bad. But it is kind of strange because most PreCure episodes, if there's someone who looks sad at one point, somewhere in that episode, they will say, I'm feeling sad because X, and it never comes up.
I do like that as a lead into the next episode, though. I don't have a ton to say about Delicious Party 33, except, haha, Amane has Catholic guilt. But did you like this episode?
No, not particularly.
Tell me why.
Amane feels like she has to hide the fact that she maybe wants to punch Narsatoru. And I get it if she were more tempted to the dark side, like Luke or something, like she had a moment where like she just was like brutally punching Secretoru or something, like that would be scary. But because it's a kid-friendly show, it's like, oh, I had a dream that I was going to punch a bad guy who continually harms people around them and literally mind controlled me. So like, no, just like, what are you doing? And she doesn't tell anyone about it. Mari several times is like, hey, sweetie, if there's anything that you need help with, I'm here for you. Which is like, everything's fine. And like, I get that in real life, there are people who try to deny their own feelings, but watching an episode, it's super obvious what she should do. And it's super obvious that like, she's acting way out of character so that people can get mad at her or there can be disruptions because she's out of character. And then at the end of the episode, she goes, oh, that's right. I should act like me. Okay, Amane, good job. You figured it out.
I get, we've talked before about how sometimes you can see like mental health things in PreCure, and I got the impression that this was her having an intrusive thought. And with intrusive thoughts, a lot of the time, the more you try to avoid the cause of your thought, the more your anxiety grows and the weirder you act, for lack of a better word. And so her actions made sense to me. I just don't know why, like, nobody directly intervened.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
Mari, I feel like, eventually was like, why are you being such a freak?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, really, there's not much else to say in this episode. Really quick costume shout-outs. We get a couple of Ran at the beginning of the episode when she's explaining Halloween to the energy fairies. But in the end, she ends up dressing up as a panda, of course. But she has, like, gosh, I can't remember what they're actually called. I call them command seals, because I'm pretty sure that's what they were called in Shaman King. But they're, like these,
like tags, kind of.
Yeah, they're spells, basically, associated with, Chinese and Japanese, or some religious customs that are basically associated with, like, raising the dead or purifying a house of evil spirits. So if you watch Tropical Rouge, Minori, she Minori or Inori? I think she's Inori. I think Minori's a different season. Anyways, the glasses girl from last season dressed up as a hopping Chinese vampire that also had that same, like, kind of tag on her face. So Ran might have been cosplaying like an undead panda? Maybe?
She was Minori with an M.
Okay. Inori was a different character. Yui was kind of generic pumpkin. She was cute. Mary was a witch. All right, I like it. More not exactly gender-conforming behavior for Mary. Amane was... What was Amane? Oh, she was like a Red Riding Hood type character. No, Kokone was a Red Riding Hood character, and Amane was an angel. We did get a flash of her, what she thought she would look like if she dressed up as a devil. She can be your angel or your devil. And we also got to see Ran as, like, a cat vampire. She was a vampire, but the ears just looked more cat-like to me. She was dressed up as a pumpkin, and then she also had one where she was dressed up as a witch. So I love Halloween episodes. I just wish we had seen Takumi in whatever he was going to dress up as.
Takumi wasn't in this. Why are they so mean to him? He deserves to be in this show. I know he has a job, apparently, but it's just an excuse.
Anyways, also really quick from AU, this isn't exactly a Doki Doki love message or anything like that, but they did say that in Japan, Halloween doesn't really do trick-or-treating as much, but it is like people have candy and they dress up and companies sell special limited edition Halloween-themed stuff. So this episode very much adhered to how Japanese culture celebrates Halloween, which I'm glad they pointed that out to me, because I was kind of thinking, like, you had a Halloween episode and you didn't take Kome Kome trick-or-treating? What's wrong with you? But they don't do trick-or-treating.
Well, it's weird, though, because they explicitly mentioned trick-or-treating as a thing you do at Halloween. That's why I reached out to Ayu and was like, I thought it wasn't a thing in Japan. And she was like, no, not really.
All right.
Moving on to Doki Doki. A lot happened in Doki Doki.
Yeah.
Like, just one thing after another. Did you like these episodes?
Yes. Yeah. We had an episode with a dragon. Dragons are always cool. We had the girls working together and actually, like, kind of using their meta knowledge to, like, invent a new attack rather than, oh, that's right, I love friendship. Oh my gosh, I got a new powerful friendship laser beam. It was, how can we combine our abilities to defeat this dragon who apparently can shield itself from attacks? We get the reveal of 3 legendary PreCure, but we only get the name and appearance of one of them, Cure Empress. We get Guleva fusing together. We get Aguri being told, don't transform yet. You have a time limit, so we need to save that.
They finally had some strategic thinking.
Yes! These episodes were so good. I don't just want to recap everything that I liked about them. Did you like these episodes?
I did, yeah, for a lot of the same reason you mentioned. And also, so when Belle first showed up, we were like, ooh, this guy's intimidating. And then we were like, oh no, he's a bit of a goofball. But now he's intimidating again.
Yes.
He ate those people.
Yup, absolutely. I do wonder if that's ever going to come back, because usually in media, especially media for children, bad guys do bad things and then get punished for it. So I wonder if at some point Belle's going to be like, aha, I have absorbed both of those 2, or maybe he'll absorb all 4 of them. Maybe he'll absorb Ira and Marmo as well. And then maybe they'll, like, from inside, like, try to, like, push their way out or hold him back or something. So.
I will be so sad if he absorbs Ira before Ira has a chance to reconcile with Rika.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I doubt that everyone is gone, but maybe they are. PreCure oftentimes will have villains defeated and seem to be like dead, but then a lot of them kind of like reincarnate or whatever. So I would love at the end of the season if Gula and Leva came back, but it's also possible this season has some darker themes, so maybe those two just aren't gonna come back, which would be real sad. If something happened to Ira, I would put money on him coming back in some way, whereas Gula and Leva can be written off the show without too much damage to like character relations and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Also want to shout out another darker thing in this. Maybe this is the true dark season. But they meet this turtle on an island. The turtle is the fairy partner of Cure Empress, and
like
she's
Melon, I think, Maron, something like that. Anyway,
she's guarding the mirror.
Yes.
And they're like, we want the mirror. And she's like, okay, fight me for it. So they fight her and they lose and they make a soup and they feed her soup. And she's like, oh, it's been 10,000 years since I've had a meal with someone, which is so sad. Poor turtle. And then they fight her again. And she's like, you know what? You are strong enough. Take the mirror. And then they're like, do you want to come fight evil with us? And she's like, nah, man, I've been alive for 10,000 years. And she dies. She force ghosts out of existence.
Do we explicitly see that?
I don't think so. I think we see her like staring out at the ocean and then it's gone.
Yeah. And then we also see her like putting flowers at the grave. So it's closure for her.
Right. But she explicitly tells the girls like, my time to be alive is over.
Yeah.
And maybe that was a fan translation error, but to me, like, man.
Yeah, that is pretty dark. I find it interesting. Now, I don't know much about Japanese culture. I get some bits and pieces from the anime and the manga I read and watch. But I do know that there are 3 sacred treasures in Japan that are related to a historical period. I don't know what they are. I know one of them is a mirror, but I don't know what the other 2 are. But I find it interesting that this show has the 3 legendary relics that existed. We also find out that the princess who had the staff, that's like called the Dragon Glaive, and yet that didn't belong to the PreCure who had a dragon as a partner. That's so strange. But I suspect that throughout the series we're going to get backstory on the other 2 legendary PreCure, and we're going to have use of their items. In the canon of Doki Doki, it's a mirror that shows you the truth, a spear that can like pierce anything, and then a crown that holds ultimate wisdom. And it's also interesting that the mirror is like reflect stuff, and Rosetta has a reflect attack, and we have Sword who has like a piercing attack, and then we have the
light of wisdom,
the
pure
light of
diamond.
Pure Diamond. So seems like this is going somewhere.
And the imperial regalia of Japan, the 3 sacred treasures, are a sword, a mirror, and a jewel, which represent valor, wisdom, and benevolence.
Interesting. Also, you know, I don't know, again, this might be pulling from the same reference or whatever, but the Triforce from Zelda kind of has like a courage and a wisdom and a power. Power is usually kind of like an attack force, that would be kind of like the spear, and wisdom is kind of like more shielding, and that's the crown, I guess, except this, anyways. And then the mirror, I guess, could be courage in some way, maybe, if you needed the metaphor to fit.
If you squint a little. But yeah, no, I think that it's cool that they're all relevant to the different girls. Even though all of them got a piece of the mirror, I still think it's, you know, the core team. But other than that, was there anything else you wanted to touch on or address in Doki Doki?
Mana. Okay, so they I didn't mention that Guleva have a plan. They have a plant that is slowly infecting people with darkness. And what this means is that instead of finding one person who's being selfish right now and turning them into a disdain, they are over time going to turn the entire city into disdains. And so there's a ticking time bomb, basically, a metaphorical time bomb, and they say, hey, PreCure, fight us. The girls show up, they try to use all of their ultimate attacks, but against the Guleva disdain combo monster, they lose, and Aguri gets transformed back, her time limit runs out, and Alice's shield gets broken, and Mana gets, like, punched to the ground, and she starts crying, and she's basically like, hey, I never really thought about what it meant to lose an entire world. Like, I wanted to empathize, but until it happened, I couldn't, like, really grasp it. And then she starts crying, and it shows all of the characters they've met throughout the season. And then she just slaps her face, something she's done in previous episodes, but she does it so hard that there's like a shockwave that comes off of her. And then she stands back up as hard, and she goes, hey, that was a good cry. I'm over it now, and I'm ready to fight.
She's just like me for real. She does say, like, that's enough of that.
Yes, exactly. They recite the 5 vows, which I love counting in anime and media and stuff. There was the Teen Titans episode where Beast Boy got taken as a pet by an alien, and at the end of the episode, they were counting off like 1, 2, 3 as they were beating up the bad guy. And that gets me, right? And so they count off
They get to 4 and you just lose it.
I can only count to 4. So they recite the 5 PreCure vows, but then Mana invents a 6th PreCure vow, and they get a new team attack. It's just such a good episode.
The name of the new team attack is PreCure Royal Flush, I think.
I believe so, yes.
And then in the Glitter Force version, it is like
the Royal Straight attack or something, or
no, it was 4 of a kind, because I was like, you can't have 4 of a kind when they're all different suits, and you were like, what do you think 4 of a kind is? And I'm like, oh no, my brains.
I think it was 5 of a kind because it was all 5 of them,
right.
But
my brain is spaghetti.
Yeah, absolutely. Slurp it up.
Stay away from
I'm
my
a zombie.
brain. Put that straw down. Side note, there was a brief time when my parents convinced me that they could drink brains with bendy straws. And for like an hour that day, I was afraid of bendy straws. They were like chasing me around the house.
That was from a cartoon, I think.
That was from Simpsons.
Okay, absolutely.
I didn't know that. I was like 4.
Well, no, I know. I'm just saying I've seen that, but I wasn't raised by your parents, so it must be like a common cultural touchstone or something. Festival episode was cute. We didn't get them in like kimonos or yukatas, but we did have that episode earlier. But I just like that Aguri basically still didn't quite know what friendship was, but now she is back to it. Also, Regina gets mentioned in these episodes. When they're having the soup, Mana's like, the soup is pretty good. I just wish that Regina were here. And the fact that they're mentioning her again means that they're going to have a plan for her. I was really worried she was going to be like an afterthought in the second to last episode where she like briefly shows up or something like, I'm okay, bye!
I'm excited to see where they go with Regina. We're getting close to the end of the series, which is kind of wild to me.
Absolutely. Next week, we will have caught up so that we will be watching Delicious Party 34 at the same time that we're watching Doki Doki 34. And then Doki Doki will...
us go.
Absolutely. Now, do we have any messages in a bottle?
Before we go to messages in the bottle, the one thing I want to call out from Glitter Force is Natalie... their version of Aguri, thank you, is much more interesting than Aguri so far. So we haven't really gotten anything about Aguri's background or how she became a PreCure or any of that in the actual show. In Glitter Force, on the episode where they go to the island, they're like, how do you know this turtle? And she's like, I don't know, I just woke up on this island.
I was called here.
That's right, I was called here. So... clearly there's going to be something going on with Aguri, but I'm annoyed that Doki Doki hasn't slipped in anything related to it.
One thing that I will say, too, is that the mirror they were given was told that it could reflect the truth, and it doesn't do that. It gave them a new attack, and I guess in a theoretical sense, if you purge the evil that's infecting someone's heart, you're, like, showing the true self underneath. But, like... if there is something about Regina's true identity, you and I have both speculated heavily about that. If there's a mystery about Aguri's past, which we speculated about that, I kind of wish that the mirror hadn't just been, here's a new power. I wish that it had been, I reveal secrets. So maybe the mirror could have revealed something about the way Gula and Leva's hearts work or something, and that's how they're able to defeat it. I still like getting a new attack, don't get me wrong, but I just wish that they had sold it to us as what it did. They said, this reveals the truth. It'll let you shoot a more powerful arrow. And you're like, those two things aren't related.
Those are different, actually.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I guess the truth of Gula and Leva is they were actually two distinct people.
I guess.
No matter how married you are, you can never truly merge into one being.
You can if you're like weird evil creatures from another dimension, apparently.
Stop trying to step on my deep moment. The one love letter thought I wanted to shout out was from AU. AU said something that didn't really translate. The title and when Amane drops the line in the episode is a reference to and rhymes with the strongly, kindly, beautiful catchphrase from Go Princess.
Ah, that's awesome.
Yes, which is, our favorite season. So, also, Ghost Fairy costumes were genius.
Yes.
AU is correct. Ghost Fairies are 10 out of 10.
I know, too, that for for episode 32 of Delicious Party, their main thought was that the randomness of the noodle fortune telling is the sort of thing that PreCure does occasionally, and that's some of their favorite episodes, is when this fairy has the random ability to be able to discern information using noodles.
Aw, dang, man, I didn't even think to scroll up past where we were talking about the
We're just not used to doing
episodes.
2 episodes at the same time.
Absolutely. Wait, where'd it go? Ran and Amane are apparently a popular ship, was another of their thoughts for episode 32.
Listen,
Episode 32.
I think when it comes to shipping, I think there's different paths you can take. I think there's the path of the show kind of hints at a relationship.
Neutral.
I guess so. But Hikaru and Lala, you'd have to be blind not to see that they're shipped together. But in Go Princess, there's a scene with Manami and Haruka, where Haruka says I want to be with you forever, right? We saw some fan subs, so who knows if that's exactly the right, words, but that feels kind of romantic, so I could understand why someone might ship those two, because there's on-screen interactions. I think there's the route you can go down of these two characters from different media or similar personalities. I don't know why Shadow the Hedgehog and Seto Kaiba came to mind, but I could see people putting them together because similar personalities. You have characters that fight all the time, Yugi and Seto are probably a popular ship for that reason because they're rivals. But then there's some that I think are just people just pick 2 characters and say, I ship them together, and that's the impression I get for Ran and Amane.
It's kind of like how when you're a kid and you've got dolls. If you were a kid who played with dolls, I had stuffed animals. It's a thing. But anyway, if you're a kid who plays with dolls, sometimes you just pick up your dolls and you just smush them together. That's kind of how I feel about a lot of our OCs, right? Yeah. They don't all ship together well, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, well, and I mean, that's basically how we got, Injustice, the video game with the superheroes fighting the Mortal Kombat people. That's just people with their action figures together.
Yep, the human urge to see how people relate to one another, I guess. No thoughts from James this week. So, Joel, do you have any crack thoughts or theories to send us out on? What's next week's episode title?
Oh no, I didn't paste it in the thing. Next episode is called something like Stubborn Grandpa Udon Noodles After Baseball. I don't know. I accidentally saw some of the frames of the preview, and it looks like the girls are going to be playing baseball. I always love a sports-themed episode, despite the fact that I don't like sports. I think it's the different outfits. I think usually the PreCure look pretty good in different outfits. But sounds like there's either going to be one of them who has a stubborn grandpa, or they're going to meet a small kid who has a stubborn grandpa, and they're going to learn the joys of sharing food. So I don't really have any opinions on that.
Takumi gets aged up significantly, so he is a grandpa. And the only way they can keep him going is being come on, man, after baseball, we'll get you some noodles. Just, you gotta keep going. If we let you go to the old folks' home, we'll never get you out.
Okay, I like that. I assume it's the opposite. I assume that grandpa always eats noodles after baseball, and then, his grandchild is hey, let's get pizza instead. And he's I will disown you, child. I will buy you and sell you on the black market. How dare you destroy this family's traditions? And it'll be about upholding traditions versus creating new ones or that kind of a thing. I do have a crack theory related to grandpas.
I'm ready.
We've heard so much about Yui's grandma and her different sayings and how she brought the town together, but we have never once seen any hint of the fact that she had a partner. And yet, she had grandchildren, so you assume that she at some point had a child, which means at some point she was with a man, probably. So here's what I think. I think that the grandpa, much like I from Doki Doki, is a mind parasite that can affect people's memories. But unlike I, instead of inserting himself into someone's life as if he had always been a part of it, when he left Yui's grandma, he erased memories.
Oh.
So, like, someone will look up and be like, Yui, how come it is that you've never mentioned your grandpa? And she goes, Grandpa? And then she suffers, like, a break, and she falls into a coma, and they have to use the power of breadception to go inside of her dreamscape and save her from the mind parasite that is her grandpa.
And that has been your
do final thought. Outro goes here. Thanks for everyone, and don't forget to equip your melted cheese armor. It deals fire damage, but is oh so delicious.
And it's always morally correct to shove as many breadsticks into your purse as you can. Go to Olive Garden, get the breadsticks. When you're there, your family, and family means taking as many breadsticks as you want.
Fight the power.
Thank you all for joining us for another delicious plateful of
Cure of the What Now.
Please take a moment to rate and review wherever you get your podcasts from.
Or if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to leave a comment, a like, or lick that subscribe bell so you know when the new episodes are going up.
Did you just say lick it?
Well, yeah, we're baking delicious foods. It's a delicious party.
Anyway, you can find me on Twitter at PirateGhostHost. Please don't lick me.
Can you even lick a ghost? I'm on Twitter at Kotwin_pod.
KOTWN_pod.
Absolutely. And as always, the Discord link is in the Twitter bio and also in the YouTube description.
Come join us for weekly discussions, streams, and all of the PreCure your heart can handle. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yum. Or no, I'm full.